Let's bring in Alex Conant in our Washington bureau. He's a CBSN political contributor and former communications director for Senator Marco Rubio. Alex, welcome.
Good afternoon.
So we heard a moment ago from the people in the administration that we traditionally look to for a unified position on the future of President Assad, but there doesn't seem to be one answer. What are the implications of that?
Yeah, it was really remarkable to see three national security officials going out and all saying dramatically different things about what the Trump administration's position is on Syria moving forward, especially concerning the future of Assad. It was just remarkable. I can't recall ever seeing anything like that. Normally, they would all be speaking off the same talking points. Instead, it seemed as if they had written their own talking points this morning. I think ultimately it reflects that Trump himself probably hasn't decided what the U.S. policy is going to be regarding Assad moving forward. Obviously, in the past, he's been very deferential to Russia in the region, wanting to work with Russia on this. Russia is a big backer of Assad. And so now, not only if he shifts position on Assad, not only does it mean having to have a new strategy for Syria, but it's also going to have a lot of consequences for our relationship with Russia as well. I suspect Trump is working through those issues right now, and that's why we saw such wildly different things from administration officials on the Sunday shows today.
Meantime, Alex, as you know, we're learning that Deputy National Security Advisor Katie McFarland has lost her White House post, and it follows a reorganization of the National Security Council that reduced the role of White House Chief Strategist Steve Bannon. How should we understand this reorganization under the new National Security Advisor, H.R. McMaster?
Well, I think it reflects that McMaster is really finding his footing inside the West Wing. Not only did the Deputy National Security Advisor, as you just said, get moved to a different post. My understanding is she's going to be an ambassador to Singapore, but also you had Steve Bannon taken off of the National Security Council earlier this week as well. So I think it's McMaster kind of coming into his own in the West Wing, finding his footing. I think it's very reassuring for people in Congress and for other national security experts around the country and around the government to see one person really taking charge inside the West Wing on these important issues.
You mentioned Russia a moment ago. Secretary Tillerson is in Moscow this week, though we're seeing reports that he may not meet with President Putin. What's at stake in that Moscow trip?
Well, there's a lot to discuss with Putin right now. Not only all the issues resulting from the election last year, the ongoing investigations about how Putin and his government tried to meddle in the U.S. election, but obviously shared concerns on things like Ukraine, Syria, Iran, potentially even Korea and China. So there's a lot to discuss. Obviously, the Russian government and Putin were very angry at the U.S. Attacks on Assad this week, on the Trump-ordered missile strikes, and that may be reason for them to cancel some of the meetings with Rex Tillerson. It's sort of a diplomatic slap on the hand. I think it would be bad for both sides if those meetings did not take place, because there is a lot to discuss, and communication is important.
Finally, Alex, we've seen a number of reports about the infighting between the president's chief strategist, Steve Bannon, and his senior advisor and son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Help our viewers understand what's at stake in this beyond just palace intrigue.
Well, obviously, the palace intrigue is interesting, and you know, there's a lot of speculation, a lot of rumors going around Washington. I can tell you about what's happening behind the scenes inside the West Wing. But it's really important for average Americans, for everyday Americans, because it's going to affect what the policy priorities are moving forward on things like the tax code. I think reportedly Steve Bannon and other people in the West Wing, including Jared Kushner and some of Jared's allies in the West Wing, have very different ideas for what the tax code should look like. They have very different ideas on what the trade policy of the United States should be. So whoever is sort of leading the policy process inside the West Wing, whether it's Bannon or whether it's Jared, will have a big impact on the policies coming out of the administration, which in turn has an impact on every single American.
All right, important perspective. Alex Conant, as always, appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you.